Yo guys, Zyger here. I just wanted to bring you a new video on my thoughts on patch 2.4. This comes after I just got back from Blizzcon. I spent most of the time talking with various devs at the Slaughtered Cafe. They became super accessible, so I got to, discuss things, give a little bit of feedback, listen to some of the things they had in mind, and I can't thank them enough for this because it was very cool how many at a time they had talking to people. There was at times 20 different devs there. I got to talk to Josh Mascara, Wyatt Chang, John Yang, Roger Houston, a lot of the top devs there. So let's go down my thoughts in 2.4, and then the second part of this video will be the questions that I got to ask the devs and their responses to them. So let's just start on what was announced. Regarding the set dungeons, I mean, this seems like something that I'm not really particularly interested in. It really seems to be something that is more catered toward the typical player, which I am not. So, I mean, maybe it's cool and they definitely spilled a lot of time in doing this content, but for me, I'm not really particularly interested. What I am interested in is they remodeled 10 different sets, and I'm not going to go through all the sets. In the future, I'm going to have Crusader thoughts and talk about what I think about the new Invoker set, which is the Thorns one, and also the new Akan. But I really like the fact that they're still focusing on build diversification, set diversification. That's a big thing, and that was something that they were very proud about when they talked about this. So we'll take a look at what the new sets mean. I was able to test this one in particular as well as the other ones on the demo. The only problem with the demo was you were only able to do Torment 8, and it seemed to be kind of tailored to the average player that, just wants to kill stuff with a build. But for me, it was like almost impossible to gauge how powerful the sets were because you couldn't tune it up a little bit, but that's fine. With the revamped sets too, the Demon Hunter for me seemed particularly strong. I was at BlizzCon with Philosophios, and he also seemed to think that this is really, really powerful, and I respect his opinion above anyone on Demon Hunter. But again, it was impossible for us to know like the extent of how powerful it is without tuning it, but we'll have to check it out. The new and revamped items, they've added quite a few items that seem really cool. For Barb in mind, they added, a new bracer that will be probably incorporated into the new Might of the Earth build, which is essentially the new Leapquake build. With that is a ring and two-handed mighty weapon. We'll have to see how that goes. The Leapquake build seemed like it's kind of bursty, but again, it's hard to know how good it will be until PTR this week. I'm looking forward to trying that. With Crusader, the Hammer Jammer seems to be an outright replacement of Hexing Pants of Mr. Yan. And given this 300 to 400% value here, I'm going to assume that is a multiplicative bonus, which should still make it better than Hexing Pants. Also, we won't have to stagger step anymore. I kind of like that. We'll have to see how powerful it is. The UI changes. This is a big one for me, especially the buff bar improvements. This seemed really cool, and they announced it during the panel, but Wyatt Chang also gave a little lightning talk on this, and I really like the new look. Basically, each ability is going to have a cooldown bar on top of it, and some abilities are going to have like an outside frame in gold when it's lit up. Also, like World of Warcraft, there's going to be collected buffs in some places, and they also moved, negligible buffs that you don't always care about into the upper right, like the treasure chest and the 4-player bonuses and things like that. I think this is a great improvement, especially for people at the high end that are using Focus and Restrain Convention. You want to always know when that's up for timing purposes, and there's much less clutter. I really like this aspect. They really did a good job on this. Damage numbers, this is kind of cool too. I don't really particularly care that much, but it's cool that like your highest damage values, your highest crits are orange and they kind of linger at the top. That is pretty cool actually. This doesn't matter too much to me, but they just wanted to, lessen the clutter. It plays out just fine on the demo. Queued powers are indicated on the tooltip. Don't really care about that. Some people like that. Death breaths are highly visible with teal, and then there's like a skull particle effect here. It's like a tealish haze particle effect. That looks pretty cool. That was a good choice. New zones, I don't mind. I don't care that much, but it is cool that they designed new enemies. The Flesh Harvester, Bonebreaker, etc. Grey Hollow Island is the new place. So that's pretty cool. It doesn't really do that much for me, honestly, as a hardcore player, but changes to seasons, they're pretty sure that 3 months is the best period of a season. It's not too long, it's not too short. I mostly agree with that. I could deal with a slightly shorter season than that, but they're going to try 3 months for Season 5 and see how that goes. If it goes well, that will be the standard going forward. Rebirth feature, I don't really care about this. This has not really been an issue to me, but it allows you to start the season by starting over one of your existing characters. I don't really care about that too much, but that's cool. The big thing, though, is the new stash space. So stash space is going to be increased. You're going to get essentially double the stash space if you follow the journey. For each step in the journey, you get an additional tab. This is going to be a lot more space, guys. It's going to be sweet because we're going to be able to have like singular tabs for item slots now, like single tab for rings, single tab for amulets. That'll be really useful, I think. That's a big change, and that's something that the community demanded for a long time. The new Canai's Cube recipe. Now, this is really cool, too. They're going to make a new recipe that allows you to essentially destroy a legendary gem to augment a piece of gear. And you can do this to all 13 pieces of gear. Essentially, for each level of that legendary gem, you get 5 points of a main stat augmented into an item. So what that means is, let's say you have a level 60 Bane of the Trapped, and you chose this recipe and augmented that. That will put a plus 300 to your primary stat on that item. This is going to lead to a lot more power in each place. The high tier players are going to start doing this on level 80 gems and things like that, and that's going to add a lot of strength or int or dex depending on your class there. I really like that. I think that really helps too because it's going to make leveling the gems have an incentive to it, have a more of an incentive to it. So you're going to be able to increase your stats not only by Paragon at that point, but also with this recipe. Bonus experience, I like this too. This basically allows players to wear their best gear rather than to just tailor themselves around EXP gear. So monsters are just going to grant more, and the bonus XP gear will essentially be worthless, almost worthless. But I kind of like it because then you'll just wear your most powerful gear. Everyone will be happy about that. Also, here's the thing that I really like. Monster health will be reduced quite significantly for solo players in smaller groups. I think this is really good for greater rifts because right now there's a barrier. A lot of people burn out of the season because they figure, hey, I don't have enough wherewithal or the proper clan to build like a great four-man's group. This is going to allow solo players to push, maybe even higher than they would have been able to push on fours by themselves. I think that's great, personally. Empowered rifts, you're going to be able to have a gold sink now. If you spend a particular level of gold for each greater rift, it gives you one more gem leveling opportunity. I really like this. I don't think it's going to be used at the very high tier, but this will make gem leveling less tedious, I think. And it adds up quite a bit. When you think of 4 per run compared to 3 per run, it does add up, and I like that. New bounties added, that's cool, whatever. Doesn't really do that much for me. And at this point, I will just basically talk about some of the questions I was able to ask the devs at the convention and some of the feedback they had. Like I said, I was able to talk to Wyatt Chang, Travis Day, John Yang, Roger Houston, Josh Mosquera, a lot of the big devs, and many more beyond that I didn't catch their names. But the first question I asked is, what do you think about the current power level of using Conduit Pylon in Greater Rifts? There was some feedback a little bit across the board on this, but most of the devs seem to be happy that it is very powerful right now. Although Wyatt Chang told me that he thinks it might be a little bit too powerful in 4s, but perfectly fine for solo. I think that's about right. At solo, it seems about right to me. At 4s, what is tending to happen is you're starting to be able to clear like 40 to 50% of that rift with one power pylon sometimes when everyone splits off, which, don't get me wrong, it's really cool to do that, but it does seem a little bit powerful and people all fan off. So the devs are happy that it's actually useful now, because in some seasons past they've nerfed it beyond oblivion and it just hasn't been. But might be a little bit too powerful for fours. The second question I asked is, what do you think about using legendary potions to snapshot in greater rifts? Like right now, a static monk can, for instance, snapshot a power pylon, and that can carry them all the way. You know, whirlwind barbs use it to snapshot the best attack speed to produce tons of tornadoes when you're close to, you know, a million mobs. So on this one, the devs seemed a little bit split, and I don't say split as far as when they're together, just when I asked them individually. I got a little bit of an assortment of answers here. Wyatt Chang, you know, stressed that over time snapshotting has gone away as much as they can do it, and that's true. That does bear out. For instance, you used to be able to snapshot the Call of the Ancients with attack speed gear, and now you can't. A lot of the times what they told me happens is the snapshotting was not intended in the first place. It was because of some older code that they didn't anticipate what was going to happen later and how snapshot would come to fruition in the new thing. Travis Day particularly was concerned about this, and I think it was very cool. He was like, I don't like the fact that, you know, the whole riff's, you know, pertinence or the whole riff's feasibility can be determined on such a strong, you know, functionality of, you know, I need to snapshot everything right here, otherwise, you know, I'm not going to do this rift. He seemed concerned about that. I really liked his answer on that. So we'll see if they make some changes to that. I anticipate they probably will. Loot tables. Do loot tables exist? And I saw that this was something that Quinn also asked. Flat out, the devs say it does not exist. They've confirmed that. I've always been skeptical about this. And just to explain, if no one knows what I'm talking about, is the contention of loot pools is that each time you enter, you know, a new game like this one that I'm in, this game could have, you know, furnace be a part of its loot pool, and then you get the furnace, you know, much more at a much higher rate. Or some people claim that it's, oh, this is the only game that you can get a furnace. If you leave this game and go into a new game, then you have a chance of getting a new instance that doesn't have a furnace, for instance. That doesn't exist according to the devs. I've always been skeptical of this anyways, because I played long-term gaming sessions, like 24 hours, just straight up Paragon blasting. And during that time, I've gotten basically every item in the game for my particular class. Like these really efficient EXP runs where you're getting tons of legendaries. I think that this is confirmation bias, and that is what the devs told Quinn too, is where someone will just kind of jump to conclusions like, oh, I've gotten 2 furnaces in a row, or, you know, 3 furnaces in the span of a few hours, and that just serves to confirm a pre-existing bias. But this doesn't exist, and they've cleared that up. Auto pickup filters. Now, this is a question regarding, you know, should they put any filters in the game to allow you to auto pick up certain types of items? For instance, you can check a box and then you'll auto pick up all blues or something like that. The devs didn't seem too interested in this beyond what already goes in to the game today. For instance, you click on one type of item and it picks them all up. And the reason for this is, especially Wyatt Chang stressed that, you know, the game will feel a little bit less interactive if you're just automatically picking everything up that you choose to, which I guess he has a point. To me, this has not been as tedious as some people, although I do not like the fact, like, as a whirlwind barb, you're just sitting there and waiting for the Death's Breast to pop out, grabbing those and roll. It would be nicer if the Death's Breast, for instance, dropped first, or the Forgotten Souls in Death's Breast drop first, and then the other items drop after that. Some people brought that up, and they said they might take a look at the code as far as that. The last thing, lag. I mean, everyone knows that plays at a high level that lag is a serious issue, especially when it comes to all the calculations that are being done in the game, area damage, life on hit, etc. So what can the devs do? Well, they talked about the stress test and how that helped them out. It helped them get a ton of data on the lag. They pretty much determined that it is server-side lag. It is not client-side lag. But there's a lot of things that they can potentially do. For instance, during the server slam, Roger Houston told me that he was pulling down reports during the entire course of that slam, and that data is going to help them put some changes in. Wyatt mentioned that there's some addressing of the lag in 2.4. It might not be a complete, jack of all trades fix, but they're at least addressing it, and it sounds like they've gotten some aspect of it nailed down. That's really good. Area damage calculations should be fixed. Maybe not in 2.4, but area damage should be working thereafter. That's a big deal too. It's kind of stupid that area damage is not working the way they intend. The code just seems real complex or something, and that seems to be a priority, but not necessarily immediately. A few of the best things, in my opinion, just to wind down, is the buff bar UI. I think that's really good, great change. Lag is being addressed. That's a super good change. A lot of people are, really frustrated about that, especially in Fours Risk, where a lot of things are happening. And the last thing, monster health normalization between solo and fours. I think this is sweet. Solo players are going to be playing the game more and pushing more. So that's what I have. Just last thing, I wanted to thank all the devs I was able to meet this week, take selfies with, give feedback to, just shoot the breeze about the game. It was great. I can't thank Diablo 3 devs enough. They really, truly do make their devs much more accessible than any other game. Very receptive. They're not hyper defensive, but they're proud of their game, but they're willing to listen to feedback. So thanks everyone for watching this video. Catch me on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/Zygor, and I'll see you next time for a new video.